Now let's talk about the second question, that is when and where does reduction division, that is meiotic division, takes place in the life cycle of a liverwort, a moss, a fern, a gymnosperm and an angiosperm. Now we are going to tell where actually the reduction division is taking place in each of these. First of all, we are going to see a liverwort life cycle, then a moss, a fern, gymnosperm, and finally we will move on to angiosperm. So to answer the question that where does and when does the reduction division or meiotic division taking place in the life cycle of each of them, we have to write or we have to know a life cycle of these plants. So first of all, we are going to discuss the life cycle of liverwort, which is a bryophyte. Now we know that the main plant body in a liverwort is gametophyte, which is a haploid plant body. That means N, a haploid plant body. So if we take an example of liverwort, we know that example of liverwort is Markantia. Now Markantia does not have true stem, root and leaves. The main plant body of liverwort or Markantia is gametophyte, which is thalloid body. So I am going to make a thalloid body over here, which is having root-like structures, that is rhizoids, and this is a male gametophyte containing antheridium. Now another one we have is the female gametophyte, that is female gametophyte containing female sex organ called as archegonium. So this is antheridium, and this is archegonium, in which the gametes are going to be formed. Let's suppose the egg cell is formed here and the male gametes are going to be formed in the antheridia, which are known as anthrozoids. Now after that, in female gametophyte containing archegonium, the egg will get fertilized with the male gamete, which will result into the formation of a zygote over here. In archegonium only, this is a zygote, which have ploidy 2n. Now we got 2n diploid zygote. This diploid zygote on gametophyte will develop and convert into embryo. Now we will make, now what happens, this zygote will undergo mitotic divisions to form a sporophyte over here. We have sporophyte, which is also 2n. As we know that zygote is 2n, zygote is diploid, it will undergo mitotic division and form a sporophyte. Then after this sporophyte will undergo reductional division or meiotic division to form spores. And spores are going to be haploid in case of liverworts. These spores are made inside sporangium present on the sporophytic plant body. This is sporophytic plant body, which is made from the mitotic division of zygote. Zygote undergone mitotic divisions and formed sporophytic plant body. This sporophytic plant body contains sporangium, and inside sporangium meiotic division, reductional division occurs and result into the formation of haploid spores. These spores. Each and every spore give rise to a new plant body on germination. So this is a complete life cycle of a liverwort or Markantia, which is of course an example of liverwort only. This is a complete life cycle in which the two sex organs are present on two separate gametophytes, and they produce different gametes, on which fertilization they will give rise to a diploid zygote. This diploid zygote undergone mitotic division, which is not a reductional division, it is an equational division. Then on equational division, it will give rise to a sporophytic plant body of a liverwort, which is diploid in nature. Then sporangia present on the sporophytic plant body will undergo meiotic division or reductional division to form haploid spores. So now from this life cycle, we have clear idea that where and when does the reductional division or meiotic division is actually taking place in case of liverwort, as this is a life cycle of a liverwort. Now we have clear idea that, or we can write that when spores are made inside the sporangium of sporophyte plant body, sporophytic plant body, then the reductional division occurs. So this is the first we have done with that a liverwort. In liverwort, when and where does the reductional division takes place? When the spores are going to be formed inside the sporangium of a sporophytic plant body, which is formed after mitotic divisions of zygote, then only the reductional division or meiotic division takes place. Now moving towards the next, that is moss. Let's discuss the life cycle of a moss first, by which we can get clear idea that in moss when and where the reductional division takes place. So we are taking a life cycle of a moss first. Now we know that moss is also a bryophyte, and the bryophyte, if we talk about the main plant body or the dominant phase of any of the bryophyte, it is always gametophyte. It is always gametophyte. So in case of moss, we know that a dominant phase of moss will be gametophyte, of course. Which is haploid plant body. Let's write about the liverwort. Liverwort in at the time of spore formation. Now, if we discuss the life cycle of a moss, then we know that gametophyte is the main plant body or dominant phase in the life cycle of a moss. So we are starting with the gametophyte. We are starting the life cycle of a moss with gametophyte. Here we have gametophyte. Which is haploid in nature. Now what happens? We have two types of gametophyte, a male gametophyte and a female gametophyte. A male gametophyte and a female gametophyte. Let's suppose this is a female and this one is a male. Now, inside female gametophyte, egg cell will produced, and inside the male gametophyte, a male gamete anthrozoid will produced. Male gamete is produced. Now, On meeting of these two, what happens? A zygote will form. A zygote, which is 2n diploid, will form on the gametophyte plant body inside the flask-shaped female sex organ, that is archegonium. This zygote is being formed inside the archegonium only. This is archegonium. Archegonium, which is present on the gametophytic plant body of a moss. And this is the, suppose this is your gametophytic plant body. Now inside the archegonium, zygote has been formed. This zygote is diploid in nature. Now after this zygote will convert into embryo. This will develop into embryo and this will undergo mitotic division. So from here we can conclude that a zygote will undergo mitotic divisions. Mitotic division, which is an equational division, and convert into develops a sporophyte, and sporophyte will develop on gametophyte only. A sporophyte which is developed from the zygote, it will retain on the gametophytic plant body only. So here suppose we have gametophytic plant body. This is gametophytic plant body. And on gametophytic plant body, inside the archegonium only, a sporophyte will develop like this. A sporophyte will develop like this, and this sporophyte have three components. That is, first one you say is capsule, second one is seta, and the last one is foot. Alright, so this sporophyte, this is a sporophyte which is 2n, this is sporophyte and 2n, which is formed from the mitotic divisions of zygote. Now inside this sporophytic plant body, which is dependent on gametophyte and retaining on the gametophytic plant body of a moss, it will have sporangia inside which spores are going to be formed. So sporophytic plant body, let's suppose we are taking here sporophytic plant body. Inside sporophytic plant body, meiotic divisions will occur. Meiotic divisions will occur and it will give rise to haploid spores here. Haploid spores. So in a moss also, at the time of formation of spores inside the sporangium of a sporophyte which is retained on the gametophyte, the reductional division takes place. We have concluded that in a moss, at the time of spore formation, alright. Now let's talk about the fern, which is third one. Now what happens in fern? As we know that fern is a pteridophyte. Now what is the main plant body in case of ferns? What is the main plant body of a fern? As it is a pteridophyte, it is a vascular plant, and if we talk about the main plant body, then fern have main plant body, or the dominant phase of fern is sporophyte. And sporophyte have ploidy level as 2n. That means the plant body, the main plant body of a fern is sporophyte, and that is diploid in nature. Now in the life cycle of a fern, what happens? Let's talk about, this is sporophyte. Two N. Sporophyte will contain sporangia. Alright, in sporangia, this is the sporangia. They will have sporangia, inside which the haploid spores are going to be formed. But as we know that sporangia is 2n, diploid as it is a part of a sporophytic plant body of a fern. Then sporangia having diploid structure, the cells present inside the sporangia will undergo which kind of division to form haploid spores, and spores are always haploid. So which kind of division is required here to form haploid spores from sporangia? It will reductional division, that is meiosis or meiotic division or reductional division. So after the formation of haploid spores, these spores will germinate into gametophyte, and these gametophyte will develop archegonium and antheridium over them, inside which the gametes are going to be formed. Now these gametes will fertilize with each other and form a diploid structure again, that is zygote, which is 2n. This zygote undergoes mitotic divisions. This zygote will not go meiotic division, it will undergo mitotic division and equational division to form a sporophytic plant body again. So this is a life cycle of a fern, in which we have seen that in the beginning of a life cycle of a fern, which is a sporophytic plant body, the main plant body of a fern is a sporophytic plant body which is containing sporangia, a modified sporophyll, inside which the cells are present. These cells undergoes meiotic division or reductional division to form haploid spores over here. So we have seen that meiotic division takes place at the formation of a spores in the beginning of the cycle only. And why it is in the beginning of a cycle? Because if we are talking about the fern, then fern is a pteridophyte, and pteridophytes have their main plant body or a dominant plant body as sporophyte, which is containing sporangia. And of course, for the formation of spores, the sporangia, the cells present in the sporangia will undergo meiotic division. So a fern will also have reductional division at the beginning of the cycle of life, at the beginning of a life cycle in them, plus at the time of the formation of a haploid spore. Now let's come towards the next, that is gymnosperm. Now in case of gymnosperm, we know that gymnosperm is a modern plant, it is an advanced type of plant. In this also we have sporophyte as their main plant body. The sporophyte is a main plant body in them. Now we are starting with the life cycle of gymnosperm. Here we have sporophyte. In case of sporophyte, which is 2n, of course diploid in nature, they contain female cone as well as male cone. Alright, female cone and male cone. Female cone is also known as seed cone and male cone is also known as pollen cone. Now what happens? Inside female cone, they have megasporangia or macrosporangia. And if you talk about the male cone, they have microsporangia. Now, these sporangias will give rise to spores, haploid spores. Now, this sporangia, megasporangia, have special cells, megaspore mother cells, will give rise to haploid spores, egg cell and pollen cells. This will give rise to male spores, or we can call it microspores. and here we can call it megaspores. Now we know that spores are always haploid and sporangia. Sporangia is diploid 2n in structure, as it is a part of cone, and cone is a part of a sporophytic plant body, main plant body in a gymnosperm. Then the cells present in the megasporangia and microsporangia will undergo which kind of division to form haploid spores? Of course, meiotic division. Meiotic division. Meiotic division. Now these spores are going to give rise to gametophyte over here. Gametophyte, and gametophyte will develop archegonium and antheridium, in which the gametes are going to be formed, and then zygote will develop. Then this zygote will undergo mitotic divisions and give rise to a sporophytic plant body again. So this is the complete life cycle of a gymnospermic plant, and what we have seen in this life cycle of a gymnosperm plant, that at the time of formation of a spore only, the reductional division takes place in them. But when the megasporangia, or we call them at the time of formation of spores, and where if we talk about the where, then in the megasporangia and microsporangia, the reductional division takes place, which are the part of female and male cones present on the main dominant plant body, that is sporophyte of a sperm. So we have concluded then when and where the reductional division takes place in case of gymnosperms. Now we are left with the last one, that is angiosperm. Let's talk about the life cycle of angiosperms. Angiosperms are the most advanced plants, and the main plant body, or the dominant plant body of angiosperms is always sporophyte. The sporophytic plant body is diploid in nature, and it contains a special reproductive structure, that is flower reproductive structure, that is flower. Flower can be unisexual, flower can be bisexual, depending upon the species. If I talk about the unisexual flower, that means a flower contains either only male reproductive part or female reproductive part. And if you talk about the bisexual one, then bisexual flower contains both type of reproductive structures, that is male reproductive structure as well as female reproductive structure. So here as example we are taking the bisexual flower, as flower is the main reproductive origin, main reproductive place where the all type of divisions, either it may be reductional division or mitotic division, are going to take place and are forming different structures. So we are taking flower, which is bisexual, these are the anthers, stamen of course containing anthers and filaments, this is pistil. Now this flower is bisexual. What happens inside this? This is anther, this is filament. Inside anther there are present microsporangias. So what happens inside microsporangias? Or microsporangium, there are 4 microsporangias. So microsporangia, which are diploid in nature, as they are part of the plant only, they are part of the flower only. Flower is also a diploid structure, as it is present on the sporophytic plant body of an angiosperm. Then microsporangia will have megaspore mother cell or microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell. So MMC we can write microspore mother cell or PMC pollen mother cell. These microspore mother cells or PMC will undergo meiotic division here. Meiotic division here, that means reductional division, and they are forming spores like this. They are forming spores which are going to develop into pollen grain. These are pollen grains which are male gametophyte. These pollen grains in case of angiosperms are male gametophytes. So these are gametophytes. These gametophyte pollen grains of angiosperm containing two type of cells in pollen grain, that is vegetative cell and generative cell. Generative cell will give rise to two male gamete. Alright, two male gamete. So from here gamete will be received. And in case of the female reproductive structure, this is ovary. This swollen part at the base of carpel is known as ovary. Inside ovary we know that there is a presence of ovule which is attached to the placenta through a funicle, a small stalk-like structure, funicle. Inside the ovary of a carpel, in case of angiosperm, we know that inside the ovary we have ovule which is a megasporangium. Ovule is the megasporangium in case of angiosperms. That ovule is attached to the placenta with the help of funicle. So this is your ovule, and ovule is your megasporangium. Megasporangium, which is also diploid, and this is ovule. Ovule is your megasporangium. Now, inside megasporangium or ovule, we have special kind of cells or tissue, that is nucleus tissue. Nucleus tissue, and these nucleus tissues have already MMC, that is megaspore mother cell, which will undergone meiotic divisions again, meiotic divisions to form megaspore tetrad, and among this tetrad, three will get degenerate, one will remain functional, one will remain functional and give rise to embryo, and thus it will forming a new plant body of angiosperm. So this is a complete life cycle or an overview of a life cycle of an angiosperm. So from this overview we can conclude that in case of angiosperms or in angiospermic plants, the reductional division is taking place inside the microsporangia and megasporangia only, but megasporangia and microsporangia are present inside of flower, which is a reproductive structure in case of angiosperms. So when and where the reductional division are taking place in case of angiosperms? At the time of formation of spores, at the time of formation of male and female gametophyte. So this is a pollen grain which is a male gametophyte and female gametophyte here. So at the time of formation of female and male gametophyte, the reductional division takes place in case of angiosperms. And if we talk about where does it takes place, then inside flower or in a flower there are two kind of reproductive structures are present, that is male reproductive structure and female reproductive structure, inside which these reductional division or meiotic divisions are taking place. So we have already seen and we have already discussed each and every kind of plant, that is liverwort, moss, fern, gymnosperms and angiosperms, and we have seen when and where does the reductional division takes place. So if we conclude and if we write a summary of this, then if we talk about the first one, that is liverwort, then at the time of formation of spores. And if you talk about the moss, then the same thing will goes for moss at the time of formation of spores only. And for fern also, the same thing will goes for fern. For gymnosperm, the same thing will goes for gymnosperm and angiosperm. If you talk about angiosperm, then at the time of formation of gametophyte. Alright, at the time of formation of gametophyte, the reductional division takes place. And if we talk about the place or where does the reductional division takes place, then we know that in liverworts, sporangia is the site. In moss, it is obviously sporangia, which are present on sporophyte only. These two are present on sporophyte. These two are present on sporophytic plant body. And in case of sperms, obviously the same will happen. Sporangia, which is present on sporophyte, and this is also sporangias, but they are present on cones. And in case of angiosperm, there is speciality or special features. If I write for angiosperm, then in angiosperm, these reductional divisions are occurring in sporangia only, but these sporangias are a part of flower. These are occurring in a flower. So this is a complete solution of question number 2.